This Three Beards Media podcast is sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company. When Rob and Chrissy Taylor started following the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in 2012, they fell in love with not only bourbon, but the entire distilling process. Just 8 short years later, in 2020, Revelton Distilling Company was opened, offering an entire family of products including vodka, gin, whiskey, and Revelton Shine. Come visit the tasting room at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, where you can sample one of their many spirits, including 4 gold medal winners. Can't make it to Osceola today? Not a problem, as you can pick some up at your local Hy-Vee or Fairway grocery stores. Follow Revelton Distilling on Twitter or Instagram at ReveltonDC or their website www.reveltondistilling.com.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
Hello, and welcome back to yet another edition of Old Man Strength, a podcast of Three Beards Media and brought to you by Revelton Distilling Company. I am Tim Johnson, joined as always by Chris Shipley. Chris, how are we doing this evening?
We're doing all right. It's been a weird week.
It's been a lot. I think every single day this week I thought it was Thursday until today when I thought it was Monday. It's not been good. It's been miserably hot, and I don't know if you know this, but breweries where we boil 600 gallons of liquid at a time, they tend to get a little hot and back. So it's been pretty miserable. I'm not gonna lie, I am absolutely exhausted.
Yeah, I guess that just never really dawned on me how brutally uncomfortable that would be in there sometimes with all that stuff brewing. But I guess that makes sense. Right? You just think the end product is nice and cold and chilled. That's probably that section of the line is where I would want to work, is down there where you're at the bottom end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Up at the front end when you're lifting up these 55-pound sacks of barley to toss into a mill and things like that. That's when it's a lot less comfortable. But
that's why I took a desk job.
I left a desk job for this stuff, so I don't know if that makes me smart or stupid or what. Excellent. Well, why don't we go ahead and get into it tonight? We have kind of a little bit different format for this evening. But Chris, I'll go ahead and let you explain to our listeners what we're going to be doing this evening.
Yeah. So, as we've been tweeting out and sending out, we're kind of on a new venture here with Old Man Strength and as part of Three Beards Media and Bitter Units. So we are trying different content, and we launched a new show. It's a YouTube series with a barking dog. That this is what happens in this professional studio that we got going on here. And we launched a new YouTube series with Josh and Jordan Myover, my stepsons. They've always wanted to do a YouTube series, and it's kind of helping them bring awareness to Williams syndrome, which is I've talked a lot about on this podcast. So we thought, why not introduce them a little bit to our audience and give them some information about who they are and what their new show is. And then I thought what we would do is bring on their mom, my wife, who can talk to us a little bit about Williams syndrome itself and some of the challenges that parents have getting diagnosis and doctors and things like that, and just kind of learn the background of some of that stuff. And then I'm sure there'll at some point be some, embarrassing stuff told about me. So
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just gonna say I'm really interested because it's not something that I've been familiar with before, other than talking with you and learning a little bit more about it that way. So I think it's going to be pretty fascinating to learn all about kind of this, and like you said, some of the challenges as well. So I'm excited.
Yeah, well, we will bring on my stepsons, Josh and Jordan Myover. They are 19. They are identical twins with Williams syndrome, which makes it even rarer for those out there. Williams syndrome affects 1 in 10,000 kids. So for them to be identical twins, I can't even figure out what the math is on that. I was told there'd be no math. So Josh and Jordan, how are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm tired.
Yeah, tired.
Yeah, because I was in a car.
Or because you were up till 4 a.m. this morning?
And then decided to wake me up 3 times at night.
The whole point of this podcast, boys, is when we ask you a question, you guys have to answer. Okay.
Well, guess what? You asked a question and we answered.
Okay. So let's talk about, I'll tell you what, why don't you guys, why don't you do a little bit of what you did on the show last week? Why don't you, Josh and Jordan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and one interesting fact, let's say, about your brother. All right. So Jordan, you go first this time.
Okay. So hello everyone. I'm Jordan. I'm 19 and I'm a person with a disability called Williams syndrome. And I have a twin brother.
Okay. And what's one interesting fact about your brother?
He loves Scooby-Doo. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a riveting episode.
Hey, I like Scooby-Doo too. I think that's fantastic.
Yes.
All right. Joshua, tell us a little bit about yourself and one interesting fact about your brother.
Well, I'm Joshua. Well, let me rephrase that. I got 2 middle names. That's really interesting about me and my brother. He's got another middle name. I'm not going to tell that one. I'm going, okay. It's Jordan, Gabriel, Michael. No, Jordan, Gabriel, Raphael, Myover. And then mine's Joshua, Peter, Michelangelo, Myover.
You guys, that is not your middle name.
They're Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, except you're Shredder. I went on a thing to tell like people about how like to promote our like YouTube channel, and I went on and a girl was like, dude, you look 12, stop lying to people on the internet that you're 19. I was like, well, I'm 19, I'm not a 12-year-old. And they're like, prove it. I was like, I was born on November 15th, 2002. And she's like, oh, damn, you are old. Don't judge me because I look small. Hey, judge me because I'm kind and loving and caring. And Jordan, one interesting fact about him, he does not like to sleep.
He does not like, and that's why he's tired, because he was up all night.
That's right.
How's that an interesting fact? I love to sleep. I sleep until 12. Yeah, that's because you're a party animal and like to stay up until. Sorry, I can't help it. Once I hear a party, I have to go to it. I gotta get my name out of there somehow.
This is pretty much what every episode I think of the WS Twin Warriors YouTube channel is going to be here. Tim, is just them bantering back and forth.
Oh, I know. I love it. So Joshua, Jordan, you guys are identical twins.
Yep.
Which one of you is the better
you don't
looking?
Even know the question, Josh. I know what you're gonna ask. Which one of us is older? And that's me. Are you
That's
sure?
not what he asked.
No, what I was gonna ask is which one of you is better looking? Who do you think?
Me. Last time I checked, I checked, I've had a girlfriend for almost like a year and a half, and you had a girlfriend for 0 days.
But
buddy.
when I had a girlfriend, mine didn't chuck stuff at me.
I was excited.
Well, good.
Literally missed.
I'm glad, Chris, that I can bring a little bit of chaos into the household from afar. So
Well,
that's
Oh
perfect.
yeah, no,
People-
this is a normal 8 o'clock at night. So
Daily routine: wake up and no parents, and then go back to sleep.
that's what your typical day looks like is wake up and go right back to sleep.
No, wake up.
annoy the crap out of our parents, and then go back to sleep. and
Oh,
then
you
take
you,
a
you have to
shower.
annoy them
Yep.
in the process.
I
Right.
did that already
My
today.
mom's on a phone call, and I'll be like, "Mom, what time is it?" And she'd be like, "Look at your phone." "Mom, what time is it?" She'd be like, "Josh, I'm in a meeting, so stop asking me what time it is." I'll be like,
Gosh,
"Okay,
Jordan,
okay."
what let's talk a little bit about what was your reasoning for wanting to do the show?
Because I've like, for me, it's like, for me personally, it's like there's amount of people that will be like, "Oh, your disability is not really that bad," and I'll just be like, "Well, then, if my disability is rare, but it's like it has different effects. Like for me, it had me like for when I was born, I had to go through shock therapy. No, not shock
No,
therapy.
Art therapy.
Heart. No, where it's the doctor puts those little thing and it says fire, and then I go
You got shocked once.
shocked
you got-
once, and I was
And that was
it. Basically, the doctor, if the doctors wouldn't have helped me, I wouldn't be here today.
The
'Cause
doctor's open.
I was
Right. But what is this show? Why do you want to do the show?
because I want to spread that there's people with disabilities can be like normal people. I just don't want people. I want to spread our disability awareness because I want to show them that with people with disabilities can do certain things that like regular people can do, like not be a person that gets judged on the way they look or the way they act.
That's a
I
good
want to
reason.
I just want to like, for me personally, I just want to spread that we like, for me, it's like an opportunity to spread awareness, like to spread the word that we're not alone in this, that we got like people all around the world that are struggling with the same disability that me and my brother have.
We're not really struggling.
Well, some people are. And it's like,
Technically, I love having this disability because
I kind of feel like God put me on this earth to do something very special. And I think that starts with our YouTube channel. Because I feel like if people watch the videos that we do, they're gonna think, "Oh wow, this kid with a disability has a lot of energy. Why should I judge him on the way he looks or the way he acts?"
Let's talk about that a little bit. I want to learn a little bit more about this YouTube series and what is it about YouTube that you guys like so much?
I like seeing different people do different things and like having different audiences connect with, like, say example, we go somewhere and it's like a sport and someone loves doing that sport, but they never knew that what it looked like until they saw what it looked like. Like, for example, I love surfing, but I never know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've never actually been to a surfing place before. I mean, yes, I have. I've been in a lot of places, but I mean, the ocean, for example.
Yeah,
I was wanting to go surfing in Alabama when we went there, and we didn't have a lot of time to
Because it
do
was
stuff,
raining and stuff.
because it was raining and thunderstorms and all the heat and
Mhm.
stuff. But luckily, we're going to Florida this year. I mean, next year. So hopefully I get a chance to actually try out. tried doing something I've been wanting to try. And it gives me an opportunity to open up to people who are nervous on like trying new things. And it gives me confidence in my own self because I don't really have a lot of confidence in myself. But doing this YouTube channel will help me a lot because it will get me out of my comfort zone. For me, it's like when people look up like, you know, there's a movie, it's called True Love. It's like about a girl that has a disability, like Williams syndrome. And it's like for her like the way she spread it was like she got into like the different, like she got to go on it. She got to create her own movie about her life. And like for me on YouTube, it's like people get to see what it's like for a kid with Williams syndrome, like how their daily routine is, what they're doing, how they how their life is. It's like for me, I'm not afraid to show people what I've like. If like I go to the doctor, I'm not afraid to be like, watch this video. And like it's for me, it's like if I post that video, it's like I'm sharing a part of my life with thousands and thousands of people. And it's like if they watch this video, then they can look up what Williams syndrome is, and then they can like learn about it and be like, oh, I watched a person with this Williams syndrome, and I like didn't know what it was until that video was posted about Williams syndrome. It's like it's like 1 in 10,000 people, and me and Jordan are like 10,000 people that are born each day. 10,000 people each day.
One in
1 in
10,000.
10,000.
So the show gets released once every 2 weeks.
And then we gotta go through the college and then
Yeah. So
Then
we'll
that's
have
where-
some episodes about their college life and
how wacky our college visits, our college days are. And then we
Yeah.
go from college to graduation and then
jobs, hopefully, and then out of mom and dad's house to the
no, me
Right.
moving to Florida and then
Yeah, they're gonna
course,
move to
who wants
Florida.
be one of those
Yeah,
gnarly dudes.
you bet.
I'm not a gnarly dude. I just want to get out of Iowa.
Okay, so boys, is there anything else you want to say before we let you guys go and bring on
I
mom?
want to say for me, I want to say thank you to the book you guys. It's like for me, it's like it's opened a whole new. Like for me, it's like I've always wanted to do like be in a podcast or like in like a YouTube video. It's like for you guys, it's like we don't care what you look like. We don't care what you are. You're welcome in this world with our videos, and we can like spread it. Like it's for me, it's like there's people in this world that finally get what it's like to have like that, to have people have like be like saying, oh, you're not good enough for this. And then I tell them like God gave me a purpose in life and I'm living it the best I can. And my parents have given me a life that I've truly and respectfully am caring for. And like for me, when I went to
You should
like
end on that, Josh.
different
That was really
schools-
nice about mom and I. You should end on that.
Yeah, I don't want to stay here forever. For me, it's like for me, when we went to the high school in Norwalk, it was like a whole nother chapter. It was like finally we got to meet the people that don't give a crap about what you look like, don't care what what size you are. You are welcomed in this earth because people like my mom and my stepdad are gonna open up and be like, you're welcome in our family. What about me?
All right.
And you? You're a knucklehead and I love you for it. And I'm a knucklehead that's tired.
Okay. Now we're getting all lovey-dovey.
No,
Hey.
boys, thank you very much for joining us. Really excited to see what other adventures you guys have in store for this YouTube channel as we
there's
learn more
only
about.
one way to find out.
Yeah,
Tune
absolutely.
into our YouTube channel, WS Warriors, WS Twin Warriors.
We're not
There
actually
you go.
but we're people with very
Yeah.
twins.
Ah,
Yeah.
bye. Thank you, Chris. I love you, Chris, and you're the best
I love you
stepdad
too,
ever.
bud. All right.
Mwah.
That's a promo.
That is.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, before we bring Stacy on, why don't we cut for a break from our sponsor, Revelton Distilling. Tim, they're in where? Osceola, right?
They are 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa. You may have an opportunity to come down and spend some time in the tasting room with a couple of handsome gentlemen and Aaron at some point here in the future.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Excellent.
Summer is winding down and fall is just around the corner. August can be a busy time getting ready for upcoming fall events, but be sure to take those final summer Saturdays and treat yourself to an evening of music and spirits by visiting Revelton Distilling Company at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa. They have a lineup of talented musicians each Saturday evening from 4 to 7 p.m. to help you enjoy those final summer days. Along with that, take time to sample some of their great spirits like their honey whiskey or their award-winning mulberry gin. Try one of their signature drinks like their blackberry bramble while you are there. Check out their schedule for music guests on their Instagram page or Twitter account at ReveltonDC. Finally, be sure to join in celebrating with all the crew from Three Beards Media, along with cast members from Bitter Units, Old Man Strength, and WS Twin Warriors for their official launch party on Friday, September 2nd at 6:30 p.m. at Revelton's Tasting Room.
And we are back. Boy, Chris, that was a lot of fun. Those two boys are a riot. I got a little bit more insight to what your day-to-day life is like. Definitely a handful, but also very sweet, very loving, and a lot more kindness than I think I've ever afforded you on this podcast. So just don't get too used to it.
I know normally when I bring on family members, it's not near that loving.
Oh no, not at all.
Caitlin.
No, she's just as disruptive though. So
Oh yes, absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. Well, excellent. Well, now I'll give you a chance. This is your lovely bride that we're going to talk to, so I'll let you go ahead and introduce her as well.
Yeah. So I think she has an interesting story. I mean, obviously, I'm a little biased, but raising twin boys with special needs and some of the challenges of all the doctors and so on, I think the story of the boys and how they were diagnosed and some of the challenges that they had is something that a lot of people can get a lot out of, and maybe could help other parents out there who may not know what is going on with their kid and knows that something is not right, but maybe the doctors aren't listening, which certainly happened to Stacy. So to the Old Man Strength audience, I'd like to bring on my wife, Stacy, who rarely listens to the podcast. Admittedly, she does not listen very often, but is very supportive. So Stacy Shipley, thank you for coming on Old Man Strength and putting up with me for another hour where you normally get a break.
Yes, I do.
Yes, Stacy, it's good to see you again. I do not blame you for not listening to us too often. If I had to listen to Chris on repeat, I think I would probably drink even more than I do. So thank you very much. But yeah, no, when Chris kind of pitched this idea to me, I thought this was really interesting because, like I said at the top, this is not a syndrome that I was familiar with at all before I met Chris, and learned about your boys, and it's not something that I think probably a whole lot of people are really familiar with.
Well, no, actually, when the boys, especially when the boys were little, we had a lot of doctors. If we went to like urgent care, they would go, Williams syndrome. Interesting. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that? And I always thought, oh, great, here we go again. And I'd have to start over. And so yeah, there are a lot of doctors that don't know anybody that has it. So I think, they say 1 in 10,000, but I think there's a lot of undiagnosed kids out there that have Williams syndrome. And as hard as it was for us to get the diagnosis, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that just don't have an answer to some of the things that their kids are having happen. So, which is why I'm glad that we're after going to this conference. One of my goals is to help raise more awareness just to what it is, because there's a lot of people like yourself that have just never heard of it. So
yeah, so not to put you on the spot, but if someone were to ask you what is Williams syndrome, how would you answer that in kind of a quick little elevator speech?
Well, it is a deletion of part of chromosome 7, and it can be a little one, it can be bigger. It varies, and it's kind of like with Down syndrome. You can have somebody that has a very mild case, or it can be they can have a lot bigger symptoms, or not symptoms, but characteristics. But there's a lot of things that the boys had that anybody can have, which is why it was a problem. When they were born, they were small. Well, lots of kids with Williams syndrome, lots of kids that are twins, especially, can be little, or you can just be small in stature just because that's just who you are. They had colic. Well, there's lots of kids with colic. They didn't eat very well when they were little, but lots of kids can, like I said, can have that happen. But then they had failure to thrive at probably 7 or 8 months. When they started eating solids, they missed a lot of milestones, which everything that we came across, every doctor would say, well, you have twins. A lot of times that was the excuse behind everything that we came across. But they started eating solids, and when they started eating solids, they just started throwing up a lot. And I would take them to the doctor, and I'd take them on an empty stomach, and the doctors would look at them and say, well, they look pretty healthy to me. It's probably just a touch of the flu. Go home and just use the brat diet and give them, bland foods. And I would go home, and they would throw up profusely, and it was like projectile vomiting. And we got to a point that I would fill like little medicine droppers, and I would squirt formula into their mouths just to be able to get something in them, because otherwise they were throwing up so much. And I kept taking them back to the doctor, and they kept telling me it was the flu. But they looked normal, they looked happy, they looked fine, everything was fine. And we got an appointment scheduled to see an endoscopy to check Joshua's stomach. And before we got in, he had a night that he was just throwing up so much that I called the doctor that was going to be seeing him in like 2 weeks. And I said, he's throwing up so much, I'm afraid he is going to choke and die on his throw up, because he was throwing up so much. And he'd be laying on his back, and he'd throw up, and it would like just go everywhere. And she said, well, if you're that worried about it, take him to the emergency room. And she was kind of mad at me for being such a overprotective mom, that she just was kind of going to make her point to me, and I was going to sit in the ER for 5 hours and not get anything out of it. And at like, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night, the nurse in the ER said, I don't know what's going on, but that doctor never comes in here. So, and she's here and she really never comes at night. So something's going on. So we got Joshua put into the hospital because he kept throwing up, and the doctors at this point had actually seen him throwing up. And so we got him in. I said, well, Jordan's doing the same thing. And I said, well, you're going to have to go through ER if you even want him to think about putting him in the hospital. And so I had to do that. And it was another 5 hours. And at the end of that visit in the ER, the doctor said, I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I'm being nice to you and putting him in the hospital because your other kid's in the hospital. And I was like, I don't care. Just thank you. Put him in the hospital for me. They both had 2 different teams of doctors. And for a week at Blank Children's Hospital, they couldn't figure out what was wrong because they just kept throwing up, and they'd say, if we could just get him to stop losing weight, we would send you home because we can't figure out what's wrong. There's nothing we can come up with that would possibly be wrong. They look perfectly fine. They just keep throwing up. And so they had said at one point, the only thing that they could find that was a little bit off was the calcium level was a little bit high on both of the boys. Their blood work was exactly the same. It was like identical. And they said it was a little bit high. It was like a 10. So they sent it to the nephrologist in Iowa City, which, because Des Moines doesn't have a pediatric nephrologist. But they said the pediatric nephrologist there didn't think that it was enough to make him throw up. So he really didn't think that would be causing it. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, you guys just went blank there for a second.
Yeah, it did. I think it cut out.
Okay. But he didn't really think there was anything. But meanwhile, they came back and said there's an adult nephrologist in Des Moines that thinks he might have an idea, but he's an adult nephrologist and he probably doesn't know. We don't necessarily agree with what he's saying, but if you want to listen to him, he can come. He said he would come talk to you. So I said, well, of course, if nobody else has any idea, yes, please bring him in. And I remember him saying, I'm very much in the minority here. Both teams of doctors disagree with me. I'm the old doctor and the rest of them are pediatric doctors and nobody agrees, but just because I'm in the minority doesn't mean I'm wrong. And he said, I think they might have Williams syndrome, but Des Moines doesn't have a genetics department here in town. So you'd have to either go to Iowa City or to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. And so since Iowa City didn't think there was anything wrong with them, we went to Iowa City, we went to Rochester, and within a day they gave them a fish test, is what it's called, and they were able to tell within 24 hours. Actually, it was less than 24 hours because by the morning they had the diagnosis of Williams syndrome. So
Oh, wow.
with it, once they had the diagnosis, they were able to give me a roadmap of what to expect. I was completely treated differently by doctors because I was no longer the crazy mom that thought everything was wrong with my kids, because they knew what I was saying was probably coming. They would say, if the boys start throwing up too much, call us and we will get them, we'll figure out something to get them bypassed the ER, because we don't want them getting sick from somebody that has something else, because they are very sick right now. It was caused by high levels of calcium in their blood, which is very, very common with infants and up to about age 2. They had nephrocalcinosis and nephrocalciuria, which is high levels of calcium in your blood and in your urine, which was high enough that it made them throw up. It's pretty hard to find low calcium food and drinks when you're looking at a 1-year-old, because you can't really find a whole lot that is not calcium fortified. So we had lots of challenges there, and to the point that I'd go to Hy-Vee and ask for help, and I'd tell them that I needed low calcium, and actually I also needed low sodium, and I'd say, what do you got that's for a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old for that's low calcium and low sodium? And they'd be like, yeah, let me get back to you on that one. So
Yeah, I mean, really, that we tend to think about giving them something, like you said, that's calcium fortified, developing bodies. So it's kind of the opposite of what every kind of nutritional guideline for infants and toddlers is. So I can't even begin to imagine that type of challenge. So along with all of these physiological things, now you've been kind of given a roadmap for what the future looks like, right? And so that it's not just these challenges that you're having today, but things that are going to continue as they grow older, and a whole new set of challenges.
Right. Yeah, and like they both had hernias, which was something that is very common. They both we really had to watch their diet. We were able to right away get them into OT, PT, and physical therapy, so that we could get started on just being able to have early access. Was a key important thing that I think sometimes parents are in denial, and they don't want to accept the fact that their child might have a disability or their child might have some problems. To me, I was like, the faster we could start getting professional help for them, the better they were going to be. They were so like low muscle tone. By the time they turned 1, they lost the ability to be able to sit up. They went backwards from 9 months to 12 months. They went backwards. But we had to brought in physical therapy. They would not pick things up the right way. They didn't, and there was just so many little tricks that OT and PT, the therapists were able to come in and show, and they were able to go to the daycares, and they were able to show me different things for me to be doing. They had like a lot of lower muscle tone in their mouth, so they would drool a lot. And they were able to just show me little simple things that would tighten their muscles around their mouth, because that's just a common thing that a lot of kids would have. So that was really important. And when we were in the hospital, they came to us there. So that was a key thing that I was just really glad. But there was, before they got diagnosed, I often thought, man, if I was, when the doctors were saying, if we could just get them to stop throwing up, we would just send you home. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you're not sending me home with 2 kids that are this sick. And I thought, how many people that if they don't have enough insurance, or they don't have enough confidence in themselves to be able to say, we're not, I can not stopping here. If they just say, well, okay.
Yeah, I mean
Sorry.
it's difficult because you know your kids, right? Um and yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of hypochondriac by proxy parents that probably worry about every little thing that's wrong with their parents, and I'm sure plenty of medical professionals have dealt with a lot of that and are do seem quick to dismiss. But like you said, if the best thing that those doctors were willing to do for you was just get them stable enough to go back home and repeat the cycle, that's not a quality of life by any means. That's so
But I think that was it was they said they had done like every test that they could think of, and they had two different teams of doctors. It wasn't just two doctors, it was teams of doctors that were trying to figure it out. But that's because if you would look at them, they looked like they looked like they were healthy little kids. They just kept throwing up, and they were behind on a lot of things, but they were behind because they were throwing up, and then they were losing their muscle tone because they were throwing up so much. And they could always point there were so many of the pieces of what was wrong with the boys that your son or your daughter might have, but they might not have a syndrome. And that's what really I think was throwing everybody off, and I think that's why a lot of kids don't get diagnosed. So.
Well, you being, and this was before I entered the picture. I think I met you when the boys were just finishing kindergarten. So a lot of these stories that you're talking about right now was before me. So I'm not sure that I even know the answer to this question, in that being a teacher, you were probably a little bit more knowledgeable about what services are maybe out there and whatever else. I would imagine are a lot of challenges for a lot of parents of not, when they get diagnosed and diagnoses like that, not knowing what services are out there, or to your point, the early intervention things and stuff like that. So talk about a little bit about that process and what that was like, trying to get those services set up for the boys.
Well, I didn't know anything about early access because that was for babies, and I had never worked with anybody in that. I just had the mindset that I knew anything, getting children, the younger they are, if they are having missing milestones, I just knew you can't stick your head in the sand and expect it to get better. And I knew I'm always ready to learn from other people coming in. But yeah, there was a lot of pieces that I didn't know about, but I think probably my gut instinct of I need some extra help was probably in the desire to get that extra help as early as I did, was probably because I was a teacher. So.
I mean, you what you've described is these physiological symptoms that I think a lot of times other parents, again, like you said, doctors, they're looking for an external physical cause, an infection, something like that, not necessarily, as you said, a deletion of genetic material on chromosome 7, right? So there's this whole kind of other genesis for this that I don't think it would seem completely foreign to a lot of people. So just for people to try to make the connection between that and the physiological symptoms that they're having, I have to imagine there are an awful lot of parents that just feel I mean, what do? You give the parent a pamphlet and send them on their way? I mean, there have to be a lot of things where this becomes a way more complicated thing than, oh, I understand what it's like when my kid has an infection. This is a whole other kind of depth, right?
Well, and one thing also, a lot of kids with Williams syndrome can have pretty bad heart defects. So when I was still pregnant, I was probably I can't even think of how many weeks. I was pretty close to being full term, especially as I did end up going full term for twins. But they were on my last ultrasound, they came back and said that Joshua had an enlarged heart on one side. We need to deliver as soon as we can so that it doesn't continue to get worse. And baby B is fine. His heart's fine. So when they were born, we knew Joshua had some issues with his heart and Jordan did not. And when we were at the cardiologist, I kept saying to the cardiologist, can you double check Jordan's, because I want to make sure his is okay. And the cardiologist said, you don't grow a heart condition. Just because they're identical doesn't mean he's got a heart problem. He was not born with a heart problem. His heart is fine. Fast forward to our trip to Mayo Clinic, both of them have heart conditions, but they're mild, but they both did. So when I was kept egging him on to double check him, I had the right premonition as a mom that something wasn't right, but the doctor wouldn't even I don't know what I want to say. He wouldn't check because he didn't think
He didn't entertain the idea.
You had a huge blind spot right there.
Right. Yeah.
But there's a lot of kids with Williams syndrome that do end up having to have open heart surgeries, and much bigger issues than Jordan and Joshua had, because they don't have the typical problems. We do get seen for the cardiology, but by the grace of God, we've been lucky and fortunate in the sense that all of our checkups have come out really well, and we don't have to follow up with that. So we do have to watch kidneys, because they were able to find that with all the throwing up that they did, they caused calcium deposits in their kidneys, which then caused him to have some what is it then?
Possibility of getting kidney stones.
Yes, he had kidney stones. That's and Joshua actually was kind of freaked out one year because they told him he had a kidney stone that was large enough they might have to blast it, and he was like, wait a minute, what do you mean they blast it? What are you talking about? And so then they kind of told him exactly how they would go in and what they would do, and they had to reassure him that there would be no dynamite, because he was afraid there would be dynamite involved. But then the next year we went in and got it checked, and it was cleared. So I don't know if it was some of the things that we had done, or if it was just all the prayers we had. I don't know, but they were gone, because he didn't pass any stones, because we would have known. I mean, he's tough, but I don't know that he could have passed a stone as big as they said he had. But I don't know. I don't know, but he about fell to his knees when the doctor came in and said his kidney stones were gone. So, which is again something that's very common with kids with Williams syndrome. But there's just a lot of little things that I kind of went off on those two things, but I did want to say those were two very, very common things that kids with Williams syndrome deal with. So just getting out all
Well, I
Right.
mean, the function of the kidney affects so many other things, and so if you don't have the right amount of calcium uptake, then that's going to affect bone and muscle development, or certainly dental development, all these other types of things as well.
Right.
So I'm sure there's a whole host of kind of secondary things. Anything from a dentist visit to back and spine development and all these other things that probably get piggybacked along with this.
Yeah, and they're missing enamel on their teeth. So not all of it, but some of it. So they're a lot more prone to cavities. And a lot of kids with Williams syndrome, their teeth are a little bit smaller than my teeth or Chris's
Mhm.
teeth, or yours. And they're just a little bit smaller, but
Well, and the unique challenge of the boys have always been small for their age. So they didn't eat a lot. So the challenge of getting them to eat and getting them to add healthy weight in, but the only thing that they enjoyed eating was milk products and anything that had a lot of calcium. There was a lot of, they would want to eat ice cream, or they would want to eat cereal or drink a bunch of milk. I mean, milk is their favorite thing to drink. And we would be like, you can't, how do you monitor, how much of that they get, and then allow them to gain healthy weight using other things, and
Mhm.
then
I'd be the mom. I'd be the mom that would go into McDonald's and they'd say, I want milk. And I go, no, you're going to have pop.
you're getting those French fries. I remember going to a doctor once, and they said, the way to sneak extra calories in there would be to cook things more with maybe a healthy oil, like olive oil and things like that. And here Stacy and I are trying to lose weight and eat lower, healthier, lower fatter things, but then we have to make, I don't know, like eggs with a bunch of olive oil and add a bunch of extra, some type of cheese or whatever else in there to help them bulk up, and and we're eating salad. So I mean, it's a weird dichotomy sometimes that we found ourselves in, I think.
Well, and then we found that they love peanut butter, and the doctor was like, yeah, if they'll eat peanut butter, that's got a lot of good fat in it. That's fine. But then they were eating so much of it that, like, one visit they came back and said they were starting to get fatty liver. And I was like, fatty liver? How do you get that? And I looked at all the different foods that could cause it. And, they're like, I don't know, 7 years old. And the only thing on there was nuts. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's the peanut butter so I cut back on it. And the next year they said it was gone. But it's like, oh my God, another thing I have to worry about.
Yeah, a whole other host of things. Then added to this, the you talk about missing milestones and cognitive delays, and a whole other host of kind of social unique challenges and things like that go along with that. So you have all of these other things you're doing, from maintaining two different kinds of diets within the household and trying to figure out all these unique medical things and all these special interventions there. You have now this whole other set of new rules, I guess, that you have to learn on what it means for those boys to interact with the world around them. I imagine that you'd, as a teacher, there are certain things where you have spent a lot of time on child development and understanding some of those things, but I'm sure a lot of this was also a lot of uncharted territory for you.
It's a lot different when it's your own kid too. I mean, it really is. I tried to treat them just like every other kid as long as I could. When we added them into sports, we had them playing rec leagues with other kids that did not have any special abilities. And actually, gosh, when was it, Chris, that we went to Miracle League? Were they fourth grade, fifth grade?
Yeah,
fifth
I think
grade?
they were in fifth grade. Yeah,
I think it was fifth grade.
It was shortly
when
after we
moved
finished the Little League, when we moved to Norwalk. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the first time I told them they were going to play. And I remember them saying, disability? What? We have a disability? Because they had, they were like, why are we playing Miracle League? I don't understand this. And so it was good for them. I mean, they were the home run heroes when they were playing, and it was quite an amazing thing. And I will tell you, through all the challenges that we had, through all the hard things that we did go through, man, we've seen some pretty amazing things come from their disability. Sometimes you really get to sometimes, unfortunately, you see the worst come out in people at school when you got little kids that are being mean to each other. But you also can see the best come out in people. And like at a Miracle League game, I don't know if you've ever been to a Miracle League game, but oh my gosh, you can't go without like having your heart overflow with just how beautiful it is. I mean, it is absolutely amazing. You get all these volunteers that are angels in the outfield. Their job is to go out with a partner. Every kid that's on the team gets a partner. They have all different disabilities, all different abilities. But as an angel in the outfield, your job is to protect that kid. So if a ball's coming at them, you better stand in front of them if it's going to hit them. If it's a kid in a wheelchair, you're there to protect them. You're there to keep them safe while mom and dad get to sit and enjoy the game. And it's pretty amazing. And the kids, the things that they do, oh man, it's it's quite fun to watch, to see. But I mean, that's just one example. I mean, like the things that we've gotten to do through Iowa State, seeing football players interact with kids with disabilities, getting to be kid captains. I mean, there's quite a few really cool things. And every time we get to do those kinds of things, you really get to see the best come out in people. And that's one of the really fortunate parts is just being able to see that.
Yeah, that's amazing. They certainly seem to have a lot of love and encouragement for each other too, which is awesome to see. We're gonna take a quick break here so we can get a word from our sponsor, Wintrust Mortgage. But when we come back, I want to hear a little bit, Stacy, your impressions of their YouTube channel and what that experience is like for them. They are certainly characters, so I'm curious to hear what mom's thoughts are on that. So we will get to that right after this word from Wintrust Mortgage.
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
We are back. So Stacy, right before we got that word from our sponsor, I did ask you a little bit about their YouTube channel. They seem to be very excited about doing this YouTube show. So what is your impression of the two of them doing this project together?
Well, like Chris said, they have always wanted to do this. From the time they were little and they would start making videos, I'd be like, dude, you can't say your last name. You can't say this. Me trying to protect them all the way down, but I have videos of them like being announcers and coming on and being ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, and just the things that they say. So I'm kind of hoping that we can throw some of their little videos that they have done when they thought they were going to be famous when they were like 7 years old and 8 years old into it, because all those times when I kept trying to protect them and not want them to be doing these things, we can start pulling some of those things out that they can finally have on there. But my fears are a little bit I'm not quite as guarded because I know they're in good hands with Chris kind of guiding them through this all. And again, after going to the Williams Syndrome Convention and saying that we just need to get word out of what it is, and encourage not just the for them, but for the parents of 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds of kids that have Williams syndrome, for them to be able to see how great they are doing. And because I've had some families, some parents ask and talk to us about, what things are like in junior high, what things are like in high school. And now that they've continued ed, they're living in an apartment. There's a lot of families that have been told that's never going to happen. When we went to convention, people were like wanting to really stop us and talk to us and find out. And we had a couple of people say, now that after talking to you, I'm going to look into this. And if we can encourage a family to take that step and try it, I'm good with it, because they do have a lot of things to show, and they can really, I really want to see them encourage the Williams syndrome families, because they do have so much to offer, and they do have a pretty unique experience happening. And God, you don't know what's going to come out of their mouths. And we finally just we're going to let it go, because they're 19.
That's right. There's probably
So-
times we have to say, I got to remember, they're just 19 and they're men. God knows what's going to come out of their mouth.
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
other body or other bodily.
oh,
areas.
yeah. I was gonna say, I'm not gonna reveal Chris's exact age on this podcast, but he's a lot older, and he's said some plenty of things I wonder what just came out of his mouth. No, I appreciate that, because it is fun to see kind of the level of independence that they have learned, and what they are bringing in, and to hear them talk about the desire to kind of help be an inspiration and to raise awareness. I think that's awesome. Just the whole idea of feeling like they have a purpose with this is pretty fantastic. And it's not just these two 19-year-old kids being goofy on the internet, but that they actually are doing something purposeful and with some real thought behind it.
Well, I will
Right.
say, I think that one of the things that I'd like to see happen out of this is for people to see them without their disability. I think that's a big part of it. There's been a lot of times that I've seen some things in the boys that I think that if somebody would have been able to see past their disability, would have gotten a lot of benefit out of, or would have seen something special out of them that maybe would have changed their life or their trajectory. And I'll give you one story. I coached them in baseball, and as Stacy said, we put them in sports all the way up until they were 4th or 5th grade, with kids their own age, with kids at different levels of ability, and their dad is a really good baseball player. He's got a huge love for baseball, and I swear that Joshua, to my untrained eye, looked like he had a little bit of arm talent. Joshua at a very young age could throw very hard, had good form. And I remember sitting on or standing at the pitcher's mound with him. And I think we were probably in 3rd grade. And at that point they were doing pitch, kid pitch and so on. And he got to pitch 1 inning, but he would go out there before every game in practice, and the kid would throw hard.
Mhm.
And I always used to think to myself, I mean, this is way huge, but you remember Jim Abbott, right? Like, he had one hand.
Oh, yeah.
At some point, he had a disability as a kid too. And at some point, somebody saw that he may have had some talent and said, okay, I'll look past that he only has one hand, and let's figure out how we can help this kid use his potential.
Mhm.
And I don't have the knowledge for that, right? I was just a stepdad who knew about baseball. I don't know anything about baseball. I'm a Cubs fan. That should, it's obvious.
Yeah, no, you don't know what baseball is then.
So, but I always wish that if somebody would have seen him and thought, forget the disability part, the kid has some talent, I can work with that.
Mhm.
I always thought that maybe even just through high school, maybe somebody could have molded something out of that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that just never happened, but there's a good example. I would love for somebody to see who they are as young men, not as somebody with a disability that just happens to be able to get past their disability.
Mhm.
That's what the goal is for me.
No, I like that. I think that's very well said.
And if I can piggyback off their success, I mean, we've done that their entire time. I mean, Stacy and I are not known around this town. We're just known as Josh and Jordan's parents.
Yeah.
That's how we're identified around here.
I was gonna say, you mentioned all the opportunities that the boys have gotten to meet football players and coaches and things like that. I'm not gonna pretend, Chris, like you're not also secretly happy that you get to ride their coattails and meet
I
those
mean,
guys.
I will or will not deny that I may have a certain couple photos with Matt Campbell with me in it. I'm a little jealous that I'm looking at pictures in my basement here of Josh with David Montgomery and the boys with Alan Lazard. Not gonna lie, but because they didn't even know who they were. I had to tell them to go stand over there by them.
No, that's awesome.
But it's been a unique experience. I said the other day that I've been very blessed to be able to allow to be part of their lives. So,
well, yeah, I'm excited to see more of this WS Twin Warriors YouTube experience that they're curating for us. I think some a lot more adventures, just getting to know them a little bit more, their hobbies, their interests. They're teasing each other about girlfriends, things like that, is already pretty fantastic. And I also welcome anyone else that is willing to tease Chris a little bit more relentlessly. I will always encourage that by all means. Stacy, is there anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to do this. This one's been a little bit different for us, but in a fantastic way. It's been good to learn a little bit more about that and to kind of help us introduce our listeners to not just continue to raise awareness, but also to help, promote a little cross promotion of a little bit of Three Beards media content here as well. So I think that's fantastic. We really appreciate you coming on, sharing the story. Is there any other things, resources, anything else that you want to maybe call attention to?
he's talking to you, Stacy.
Any resources?
I mean, you mentioned coming back from this conference. Is there anything that you found that you thought would be particularly helpful, or anything else that place that you might direct someone towards?
I
Well-
would say, go ahead, Stacy.
No, you go. You take this one because you were.
I would say the resources that I got the most out of was the post after school job resources and things like that. So I would certainly, if anybody out there has children with a disability, regardless of whether or not it's Williams syndrome, and has any ideas about whether or not their kid can go to a post-secondary education, thinkcollege.com is out there. There's a search on the website for state resources. I'm sure our dog sees a killer squirrel right now. Or some other dog owner out there loves them more and is taking their dog for a walk while ours is locked in the house. but the job resources as well. That's been a struggle for us, is finding placement for jobs. And there's some certain organizations out there. Your state organizations, your VOCA rehabs have the resources and the federal dollars for that. So make sure that your federal dollars are put to work through your local VOCA rehabs.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with the also the post-education piece. I think there's a lot of people that don't realize, and there's only, I think in Iowa, I think there's maybe 4 places that have
Yeah.
a continuation that you can go on with your IEP. Dog. That but like it's quite amazing, but I don't know that because it's part of their schooling from the like the district where they're at. I think because money is so tight, I think a lot of schools don't push it because it's an expensive program. And if you want your child to be able to go on to get more education, it is out there. And like Chris said, thinkcollege.com. And I just passed it on to somebody else last night, because that website will get you to all the states in the United States, so you can see what colleges, what programs are out there in the different states, and it explains each one a little bit.
Wonderful. Well, Stacy, we will go ahead and let you go. Once again, thank you very much for joining us.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, good to catch up, and hopefully I'll get to see you here later this month or early.
All right, sounds good.
Yep. Excellent.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Yep.
All right, got through that whole episode and she didn't talk anything bad about me. That's pretty good.
It's impressive.
It is impressive. I'll take it. Kind of a unique story, and I appreciate the chance to be able to bring him on and talk about it. The conference really kind of opened my eyes a lot. This Williams syndrome conference, which we touched on a little bit. The last episode was a national convention where people all ages of Williams syndrome came, and their caregivers and parents came from across the country. And we met kids, as little as 2 and 3. We met adults that were 50, 60 years old that had Williams syndrome, and the challenges that they had when they were much younger, and there wasn't a diagnosis out there for them, and the community that they have. That the end night was such a moving night, because all those friendships that were made, they knew they weren't going to be able to see for another 2 years. And that was really the first time that Josh and Jordan had been around a lot of people that looked like them, acted like them, and they could be themselves without fear of judgment. So it was a big deal.
That's pretty fantastic. That's great. They like I said, they crack me up whenever you share anything from those two, and I'm sure they have kept you on your toes for maybe to a point of some exasperation, for sure.
The YouTube fascination has gone on for quite a while. I remember one time, it was about 3 days in a row, and Jordan walks downstairs and he goes, "Hey, Chris, can we have ribs for dinner?" And I was like, "Ribs?" I was like, I need a little bit more than a half an hour's notice to make ribs. I was like, "Why? He's like, "I was just wondering." I was like, "Well, I can make you ribs like this weekend. We can make ribs." And he's like, "Okay, yeah, I really want barbecue ribs." And the kid never eats, so I have no idea what's going on. And so the next day he comes down and he's like, "Hey, Chris, we have a metal detector?" "No. Why would we need a metal detector?" "I don't know. I was just wondering." Okay. So then the next day he comes down and he's like, "Hey, do we have some scissors and some chicken wire?" "What are you watching?" At this point, I found out he's just scrambling and just looking for different YouTube channels and just watching all this crazy stuff. Like the day before, he'd watch this YouTube channel of this guy going around with a metal detector and finding a bunch of treasure.
I'm glad to know that these weren't related, though.
Right, I know, right? At one point, I thought maybe he was gonna bury a body, or
I was like, what kind of trap are you building here? This is
no kidding,
pretty elaborate.
No kidding.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, I love it. I think that's great.
Yeah, so exciting stuff. And you mentioned it a little bit. You are going to be coming down at the beginning of next month. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So, longtime listeners of the pod, we have talked a bit about our change in production as being part of this Three Beards Media. We've talked about the podcast and some kind of future projects that are still in the works with that. But we wanted to go ahead and invite everyone out to kind of help us get this thing launched off officially with our partners that are helping us provide this content as well. So that is officially, I'm going to get the date wrong because I had it in my head, September 2nd.
Yep.
At 6:30, I believe is what we said, right?
Yeah. 6:30. It's a Friday night. So that's the Friday night before opening weekend for Iowa and Iowa State. So both home games. So you shouldn't be traveling anywhere. Down at Revelton Distilling Company, Rob and Christy are going to host us down there, and Kyle Lehman is going to try to join us from Wintrust Mortgage. And we would just love to have a packed house. We're not going to record or anything. It's going to be a night of just having some drinks and mingling. I'm super excited. Our partner, Aaron Wall, is flying in with his family. And, I'd be remiss. We've talked a lot about bitter units and the great job that you and JT and Aaron do on that. But we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the rest of the people that are working behind the scenes on stuff. Mackenzie Duffy, who does all of our social media. She cuts all of our snippets, our video snippets, and runs our Three Beards Media Twitter account and Instagram and TikTok and all that shit that Tim and I and Aaron don't know anything about. Aaron does a great job of editing your guys' pod for Bitter Units. Caitlin is reading our ads for us. And we have a new member that's in the process of coming up with her fresh new podcast is Anya. So
Anya Carter, who has been a guest host on Bitter Units as well as just a guest on Bitter Units. She has opinions and she is not afraid to share them. So I'm really excited to see what she has in the works. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, good for plenty of laughs, but also something that finally a podcast on here that isn't just 3 or 4 bearded old white dudes all just talking about their bearded old white dudeness all the time. I'm sure,
super excited for her to hop on and bring on the new podcast. It's really kind of, I think we've talked about this, it's been our goal to bring different ideas and different perspectives and not preach. I don't think we do a lot of preaching on here, but just entertain and make people think. And we could not ask for better sponsors that allow us to do that. So
absolutely. I know we've played some ads from them, but really excited that Rob and Christy at Revelton and that Kyle at Wintrust have believed in us and helped us to continue to grow this thing so that we can continue to find some amazing guests. More to come with that as well. So please stay tuned. But again, September 2nd, 6:30, Revelton Distilling, 1400 West Clay Street, Osceola, Iowa. Please come down, hang out with us, have a cocktail, show some love to Rob and Christy. Come make fun of Chris, come make fun of Aaron. I think those are all great things as well. So
that's right.
I'll be there too if you want to say hi. But
that's right. Yes. if you want to meet the sane one, you can come and talk to Tim.
I was gonna say, I don't know if there is a sane one amongst us. We all take a little bit of turns trying to interject a little bit of sanity.
I mean, I don't know. I think I feel like we're missing a prime opportunity of a new version of Love Connection hosted by Mackenzie Duffy. That's what I think.
Yeah, if we can get Mackenzie from behind the social media chair to go ahead and host this, I think that would be wildly entertaining. So that she's putting everyone else on the same spot that we put her on Old Man Dating. So
that's right, exactly.
Sure.
Are you going to the Iowa State game the next day, Tim?
I have not figured out if I'm going to be able to make that work or not. I'm trying to make sure that can work, but I still have a few different irons in the fire, so to speak. Always something going on, man.
Right. Absolutely.
Always something going on. But no, I'm excited to get back down there and see Rob and Christy again, see you guys and hang out and just be back in Iowa for kind of the kickoff of the college football season too.
Yeah. Well, I'll just I'll leave it at this. A little bit of a teaser. We have a couple guests that I'm working on for the next definitely one for the next episode, and then one hopefully in the next month or so. Two pretty big Iowa State football and basketball legends that I'm super excited about that I'm working on. So that will be keep an eye on our Twitter account. We'll announce those once I get finalized. So
excellent. Well, Chris, is there anything else that we need to plug?
Pleasure as always, Tim.
Yes, it has been a lot of fun. We are excited. So we look forward to hearing from you. Please reach out on social media. Let us know what you think. Go ahead and check out our sponsors. And with that, we will see you guys next time.